absolutely undeniable before your bid, before your application, before your pitch session. And of course, you're always ready for the next one. And the interesting thing is, what I want to talk about more than anything else is when I'm working with business owners, especially, there's something that I have noticed. They recognize the importance and the necessity, and of course, the opportunity of diversity procurement programs because there's so much time and energy that's put forth into the packaging, the application, the website, the marketing, the social media presence. All of that matters. And they recognize that and they want to make sure that their package represents their company, that they show up, they know what they bring to the table, they know the services and products they provide. And the interesting thing is that I always, it never fails. This interesting thought that always comes up, and it comes up each and every time. And I want to know if this thought has crossed your mind too. Because is it wrong? And this is the question that many of the people that I've worked with, and I'm wondering if you've thought about this, that they don't want to be known as a Black-owned business, as a veteran-owned business, as a women-owned business, as a LGBTQ-owned business first. Sure, that's part of them. And again, they recognize how important it is, but they also know how good their offering is. And they want to be evaluated. They want to be thought of someone who is a high performing partner, who happens to be diverse, who happens to bring that perspective to the table. They just don't want to be thought of that first. Is there anybody in the audience right now, when you think about it, have you ever had that thought as well, where you're thinking, I don't want to be seen that way? Drop a yes in the chat if that is you, because I know that for me, I want people to see my value first. I want people to see what I bring to the table. And so that is something that I feel is incredibly important. And if you felt that way, let me just tell you, you're normal. And we want people to feel a certain way when they connect with our personal brands, when they connect with our company brands. We want people to think things, we want people to feel things, and we want people to expect based off of what they know. And of course, there's that I guess tug of war between knowing how important it is for these designations, but at the same time, knowing how much value you bring to the table. And I see what Angela says. Yes, especially in today's climate of eliminating DEI. I love that. Absolutely, Angela. And later on, what Eddie's going to talk about is going to chime in exactly with how you're feeling. But it's really interesting when I think about how people make us feel, how people want us to feel when they interact and engage with us. It brings me to this experience that I had with my mother. My mother went on a cruise. She bought she went to Alaska. They, of course, that's one of those cruises that are definitely on the pricey side. And my mom is Olympic level shopper as far as spending money is concerned. I know where I got it from. But when she came back, what she presented me with was a gift. And I could tell just by the bag, by the quality of the tissue paper, by the thickness of the bag, that this was going to be expensive. And I knew it was expensive. And so I lift the little box out, could already tell it was jewelry. And I looked inside, and it was a nice silver bracelet. And I said, "Thanks, Mom, I really appreciate it." But that "thanks, Mom, I really appreciate it" wasn't the reaction that my mother was expecting. So she began to tell me, "Well, they were really popular on the cruise ship." And I'm thinking about the cruise that she went on and the demographic of the people who went on the cruise. What may be popular with them on a cruise to Alaska may not be as popular with me, I'm just saying. So I said, "Thanks, Mom, I appreciate it." She's like, "They sold out within a day." Again, "Thanks, Mom." She was looking at me, expecting more, expecting a reaction, a feeling, a something, but she didn't get it. And then she says this to me: The jeweler who designed this bracelet, he used to apprentice under David Yurman. Remember, I said I have Olympic level shopping pedigree in my bloodline. So David Yurman, that definitely got my attention. That's vision board worthy jewelry. And anyways, I said, oh, David Yurman, wow, that's a really well-known brand. So now she's got my attention. And then she said this, there are only 50 of them made. And once he makes 50, that's it. That's all he does. So now I'm thinking, wow, you should have led with that. Now I'm holding the same bracelet, but yet the value is completely different. And what I have learned and what I have seen throughout building brands and communicating value is something really simple. That when you change the way people, companies, people you're working with, your clients, people you're just meeting for the very first time, those that you're presenting to, your audiences, when you change the way they see your value, your conditions for success completely change. Because have you guys ever experienced that before where you walk in, they find out something about you, and all of a sudden they straighten up, they listen to you differently, they've heard about a little piece of experience that completely changes their perception of you? Well, when you have had those moments, you know what this feeling feels like. You are still bringing in the same value, but yet their perception of you have completely changed. And I know in certain rooms that I walk into, I might have to drop the bomb that I'm 51 years old. And if you're doing the math right now, just carry the 4. But this never fails to change the atmosphere when I've noticed that the room is treating me like a very smart young lady as opposed to someone who has garnered the experience, has the expertise, and also has the scars to prove it. People receive things differently when they recognize that. And often it's just because of how they perceive me. So there's certain things, depending on the room, they need to know. In other rooms, they couldn't care less. But that's what we need to recognize is the things that we should have led with. And oftentimes that I should have led with that happens in a do-over moment. When we ask ourselves, why didn't I introduce myself that way? Why didn't I just post that thing? He doesn't even care. Why did I say that? We go through them in our minds and we're always wondering, why? Why did I say that? And it's because we are usually leading with the wrong thing. And we have to recognize that value is so subjective. And like I said before, same bracelet, different value. And so we have to make sure that the way we communicate our value is how we connect that value, that perception, that offering to what that person wants. And oftentimes I call this the problem when we have those moments of disconnect it is a value disconnect. And it's the gap between from a workplace perspective, from a business perspective, it's a gap between the work, the expertise, and the impact that you have versus what they actually perceive it to be. And this also happens quite often when we look at the fact of how we're communicating our value and are we doing it intentionally? And I find that most people, as a result, we are branding by default. What do you think that means when I say branding by default? And feel free to join me in the chat if you have an idea of what that means. I mean, think about when we just name, title, keep it moving. Our titles are so subjective. And if people don't have context to what your role is around that title, two people with very similar titles can mean completely different things. When we don't clearly articulate or frame things, people, again, they're left to their own devices of what they think. Also, when we think about our LinkedIn profiles, I would say that most people who set up a LinkedIn profile, it includes their resume because they're supposed to, and they put it up there so they talk about all the things that they've done. But by default, that's what they've done. So what they're not doing is talking about the things that they do. And it's not your fault. As we think about what we do in our work and in our craft, we focus on working on the craft, working on delivering the value. But we have to also recognize that most organizations, you yourself may not have focused on the skill of communicating your value. And that's something that needs to be considered. And I find that, especially when it comes to our personal brands, I've actually had to develop a system for my clients because most people, when they're thinking about personal branding, they think about, you know, becoming famous on the internet, or they think about job hunting, or they think about sales in a very, or becoming a content creator. And, or they're thinking about how they show up. And while that's important, what matters is it driving your performance? And is it supporting the work you do today? Not just showcasing what you've done, but the actual work you do today. Because the people that I train, they recognize that their personal brands matter to their work. It influences how they're recognized, respected, remembered. When they reach out, join in, speak up, develop a strategy, or submit a proposal, the way their brand is received as an individual definitely impacts what that person, how they're respected, received, remembered. And most times people, when they think about personal branding, they're thinking about marketing. When I want to take you from a performance-driven personal branding perspective, that is about the moments. That is the conversations, the LinkedIn profiles, the referrals, the in the middle of a meeting where you have to advocate for your values so that they trust you more. And so this is a different type of personal branding that you may be, again, not familiar with. So the type of personal branding that I have developed for my clients, and it's an entire system, it is based off of your reputation and your brand at work, because both of them impact what people feel, what people say, and what people expect. Your reputation is kind of like that raw data, the things that other people are saying about you based off of their experiences with you, based off of what they've heard about you, what they have seen. While your brand, if you take the time, what it does for you, it is shapes what people say. Your job is to give them that language, to lead with what matters to them. But most of the times we talk about our brands, or we talk about our experience in generalities, when we need to focus on specifics. And your brand at work, your brand on site, your brand with your clients, your brand with your partners, this needs to be something that makes them feel a certain way. And really interesting when you think about what you want people to feel, say, and expect. Especially, you've all heard the quote from Maya Angelou: "You may not remember how somebody's name, but you will remember how they made you feel." So what's that one feeling that you want your brand to have? I'm curious. I want you to think about that for just a second. What's that feeling that you want your brand to have? Anybody want to share in the chat? You guys are a quiet bunch. Maybe you're cold, but that's okay. Usually the words I get is confident, or approachable, or knowledgeable, or their expertise. But I'm going to give you a new feeling to drive for. This is what you should want your brand at work. Oh, I like that. Bhargav, committed and trusted. Yes, we want that feeling. We want people to know that we are in it for the long haul, that they can trust us to do the work. But I want to give you a more primal word that if you focus on this word, everything else will come into place. And that word is relief. Interesting word, I bet. But let me explain it for you. So that is relief that you're in the room, relief that you can do the job. I feel relieved that you know what you're doing. I feel relieved that you've done this before. I feel relieved that I don't have to worry. I feel relieved that I can trust you. So when you think about your brand and building your brand, one of the first things that you should think about when it comes to that feeling that your brand can create is relief. Because in the work environment, that becomes a gift. And that's something that when you work towards, the other experiences, the other emotions that you want will all come from that relief. They'll be excited that you're in the room because you make them feel good. You make them feel relieved that you got this and they don't have to worry. So that's an interesting emotion that kind of flips the script, especially when we think about personal branding. And so the way that we get people there is actually how we make them feel. And so we have to be able to clearly articulate our value at work. And so that is where this convergence of the work you do, and that could be from your role, your responsibilities, the things that you are actually doing and providing for the client or the partner. Also, the capability behind it. So that is your experience, your expertise, your skill set, your perspective. That all drives the capability, especially as we're talking about diversity, that diverse perspective. We know that that is valuable. And Eddie's going to be covering that today. In his presentation, we know how valuable that is. And that's not just a feeling of value. No, that's a number backed value. And then also the impact that your work can make, that your work has made in the past. This is something that converging together, that is what we need to learn how to communicate when we're communicating your value at work. And here's where it gets interesting. That's when we have to focus on them. Because we can talk about ourselves and the things we do, the capabilities we have, the impact we make, but if it's not about them, it just becomes a laundry list of things that we've done. And we might come across that we're bragging. And a lot of people who think about personal branding, one of the things that keeps them back is the idea of, I don't want to look like I'm bragging. Sure, I want to communicate my value, but I never want to show up like I'm bragging. And the interesting thing is, what matters to them is actually what matters right now. So when we think about traditional branding, where even things like an elevator pitch is for a specific audience, and if you're off pitch, you forget your lines, you might not nail the delivery. And it may not be relevant in the moment. You need to be able to communicate your value at all times. So you need to be able to read the room and know what's happening right now. Maybe how's everybody feeling? What happened before you got in the room or before your services were required? What is it they want to achieve? And what do they already think is true? These are really interesting ways that when we are actually more intentional about communicating our value, we're going to read the room and evaluate them. That doesn't mean we're talking about all of them at once, but that's something that we need to know. But the real challenge here is making sure that when you are able to communicate the work you do, the capability behind it, and the impact you make, you're actually wrapping your value and giving it to them as a gift. Just like a tree cannot eat its own fruit, you are giving your value to somebody else. You are your work, the work you do, the gifts you have, you're giving it to them, but they have to know it's a gift. And so this is where I teach a communication skill. And this is where you are only sharing the value that matters in the right order. And so rather than relying on other ways to communicate value, this is about focusing on what matters to them and presenting it as a gift. And I call this value wrapping. And it's a very simple communication skill that over time becomes second nature. And the interesting thing about this is that when we do it this way, we showed up as the same person But when we communicate our value in a way that matters to them right now, our value completely changed, just like the bracelet. When my mom actually communicated what mattered to me, the fact that the jeweler worked with my favorite or apprentice under one of my favorite vision board worthy jewelers, and also the fact that there were only 50 made. That's what she should have led with. And sometimes we have to recognize what matters to that room. So, and not sometimes, all the time. So where we present this gift is really interesting. And this skill that I call value wrapping, and it's again just knowing how to communicate your value by winning their attention, revealing what's most relevant, activating their trust with some examples or things that you've done before, and positioning the next step. We can do that when we are introducing ourselves in the middle of a conversation, when we have to all of a sudden drop the fact that we worked with a specific client because it's relevant to this moment, or in our profiles where we focus on what we do now rather than what we've done, and our profiles are written to serve that specific audience that's actually validating and verifying who we are. Also, what sort of proof are we putting out there that shows that we can do what we say we can do, that we've done what we say we've done, that we have the skills, we have the expertise, and that our knowledge is sound and you can trust us. There's all different types of proof, whether it's content for the internet or content that is in Slack messages, in email, and in presentations. And of course, our activity, that's another place where we can wrap our value, but it's very specific to who we're talking to. And it's happening all the time. So unlike a marketing campaign, we are actually communicating our value in moments. And I don't know if you've ever read this book before, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's built on the simple idea: small actions repeated consistently create massive results over time. And that's how I feel our personal brands can completely transform exactly the opportunities that are in front of us, and the opportunities that are in front of us that we can't even see yet. So I bet you're wondering right now, okay, well, we are here as minority diversity suppliers, and how does this apply to us? And that is the question that I bet you guys are thinking. Okay, so what I wanted to do is give you 5 very practical ways that you can think of leveraging performance-driven personal brands, and that is brands that really support you in your day-to-day work, supporting the work you do, supporting how you show up, being able to communicate your value and your expertise. And one of the things that's really important that I see where businesses and founders and owners and also their top staff and team get it wrong is they're not prioritizing the events that you can go to. So we're not just talking, we've got industry events, supplier events, business matchmakers, diversity councils. We're also talking about work that is, that there's RFPs with the government, so going to council meetings, understanding, because this is where you get the insight. This is where you get the expertise. I remember working with a company in Canada when they were the company on the team was the company where the members were responsible for bringing Walmart into Canada. And from that experience, he was very well known in the industry, but then he went out on his own to build right-sized shopping centers in smaller communities. And the interesting thing about the work they were doing is these smaller communities, especially with the knowledge, especially at that time, Walmart had a reputation for coming in and eating up small businesses. And because he was that guy that was connected to bringing in Walmart into town, there was a lot of resistance. But what they were building their brand on is community-driven developments. So we went to, and as their communications advisor, and what I did is I went in to the town hall meetings to find out what mattered and then centering their value around that and creating content and creating blog articles, especially way back then when I did this, that showcased the type of employee or the type of company that they were, and that they did care, and that they were all about creating right-sized developments. So one of the things that we ended up doing was sponsoring a women's shelter and sponsoring the youth room in the women's shelter, and they completely made over the entire room and bought PlayStations and couches and all that stuff. But that, in a small town, made big press, and it changed the value of the company to the town because it reflected what they brought to the table. But you can only get those insights when you're at the events. You can only get what matters when you have those relationships and you're talking to people, and you also are showing that visibility. And so when you have a brand that supports the work you're doing, that shapes how you show up, this completely changes everything for you. So you do need to do that, but then your brand online, your brand, how you communicate, backs that up. The next thing that you need to do, and this goes to what I talked about earlier, is optimizing your LinkedIn profiles for performance. This is so when people are looking you up, they don't want that general information about you. And that's where most people get it wrong, especially in that about section. They keep it a little bit general. They talk about the company when what they really need to do is focus on the work of the individual and what they do now and how they help, because that's why somebody's looking you up as the leader, as part of the leadership team. They want to know. And when you're providing the work of what you've done, or you're showing your resume and not optimized to start a better conversation, not optimized to provide the information people need, this definitely takes a toll. So on how people perceive you. And we know that people look you up before the meeting. We know that people are vetting you and your team and the talent on your team. And we know that, and I've vetted applications before. I used to actually work with the city of Toronto, and I've seen applications and procurement bids come in for things that I was responsible for. So I've seen it where we are looking those people up online, and this is where you can stand out. The next thing I want you to make sure that you're doing is you ensure that on the ground, with the people that you are actually serving and doing business with, so beyond the application, that they are aware of the value that you are doing and that you bring to the table, that your services, your products bring to the table. Because oftentimes, especially if you are in a more technical business, they know high level what that means, but they have not been able to connect the value. So you're known as the consultant. Oh, they're hiring a few new people, but if that regular everyday language that comes up in meetings and framing the work that you do, the experience you have, and the impact you make around what they need, they will build that feeling that we talked about before of relief, because they're connecting you to making their world easier. So again, most technical people, they're focused on delivering value. That doesn't mean that they were necessarily trained on communicating the value. They talk about the things they do, the tasks they're responsible for, but oftentimes they need to be able to connect their value based off of who they're talking to. And that often changes depending on if you're talking to the leadership team, if you're talking to vendors, if you're talking to partners, it depends on who you're talking to. They need to know different things. So you need to be able to context switch on your value, which is what value wrapping is all about. And then as well, you need to create proof that builds trust. So I have worked with several companies where they are looking at the influencers within the company. So I call them employee influencers, because not everybody's going to create content for you, or not everybody is showing up and speaking at events, speaking on behalf of the company, or accepting the awards or meeting with the community, meeting with the partners. But those that do are high visibility. And they are at events where that tells the story. So that proof of what you do, the proof that you have the experience, you have to be able to show that proof and share that proof. And also, if you showing your company culture. So if you, for example, you have a team volunteering event or the work that you're doing, how you work together, showing that also projects the value of working with you because you can see the type of people that you work with. So what I've done is helped the influencers within the company show up, communicate their value, but also create content. So teaching them how to do that effectively, all using value wrapping. So these are things that are really important. And this allows you to share the wins, share the culture moments, and build trust. Because when this content is shared, which is often very difficult to make from marketing departments, they are more real, they're more defined when we are showing that they come directly from the people that the thought leadership comes from. These are things that you have to think about and also build, because that strengthens your current bid and your next bid, because they build that trust and, again, that relief. And then, of course, the final one is you need to equip your partners and champions to advocate for you. So that means you need to let them know where they can find information about your team. Let them know, here are the links to the people on my team that you can go check them out, so that they have language. Let them see the content that is being shared, also giving them that language to advocate for you. It's also very important as you're building relationships internally, when people understand the value of what you're doing for their team, they become your champions, where they are now communicating the value to other teams, and that creates new opportunities for you, and also letting them know where they can find and talk about you. Because there's so many times where I've been in the room where somebody, or where I haven't been in the room, but I've technically been in the room because they brought up my LinkedIn profile. They now have language to better advocate for me. So these are things that are really important. And this is how you connect your value, so that people recognize how important your value is, because they see it from their lens. And when you do that, this is where things start to change. This is when you are, right now, as you submit your applications, your perfect websites, your marketing, the process that you have to go through, everybody looks the same. But what makes you stand out is your people. You cannot compete with that. And you cannot compete with people who know how to communicate their value on demand, in person, online, anywhere, anytime, in a way that drives their performance. And this is what I want you guys to leave with, is that this is a priority. This is something that we're not always taught, but it absolutely changes the way people see us when we change how they see us. So remember this, go to the events for the insight and the visibility, optimize your LinkedIn profiles for performance, ensure that they understand the value of the work you're doing, not just the things that you do. Create the proof through your thought leaders, through your influencers, internally, that shows that you have the talent and that builds the trust. And then equip your partners and your champions with access to this information, access to this knowledge, and access to the language, so that they can advocate for you when they're not in the room. Because, my friends, branding works when you do the work. And this is how to make sure that your value is completely unmistakable. Because, again, most organizations never build this capacity intentionally, where they're building performance-driven personal brands. And that is the opportunity. And that's what I want you to think of it as we close. And I want you to know that I know I've brought up a lot of things, but I am sharing a guide, and it's a recap guide. So if you want to get a copy of that guide, I'm more than happy to share it with you. And you just have to go to thatcouldwork.com or scan the QR code and just give me a little feedback, and I'll share the guide with you. And then on top of that, I'll make sure that if there are any unanswered questions today, that I include it when I send out the guide later on. So I'd like to thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to type it in the chat. And let's see here. Thank you. Thank you. And also, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have today.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was very informative, very encouraging. I'm sure all of the attendees feel the same way. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We're going to move on with Eddie now,
Okay.
and then we'll come back if they have questions for you, Share,
Amazing.
after Eddie presents.
All right.
Eddie, you can turn your camera on now.
And
I'm
And
here.
thank you again so much, Share.
thank you for having me.
This is a man who really needs no introduction. Eddie is very special to the council. He has been working with us for many years as a motivational speaker for us, as a workshop lead, as an MC, and almost anything else we ask him to do. He also is the global CEO and partner of AppTask Global Workforce Solutions, New York, United States. Eddie Bright Jr. is the global CEO of AppTask Global Workforce Solutions. Ooh, we have that twice. Sorry about that, Eddie.
It's all right.
AppTask is a leading provider of staffing and workforce solutions and the nation's premier minority Black owned and veteran certified global supplier provider. AppTask Global has offices and operations around the world with 12 primary locations in the U.S. Eddie is a quarterly contributor to the Chris Cuomo Show on News Nation, CNBC, and Bloomberg channels, News 12, and several shows on Sirius XM, sharing the benefits, opportunities, and challenges to DEI, A and B. In 2023, 2024, and 2025, staffing industry analysts named Eddie Bright Jr. a national DEI influencer. He is, I'm sorry, he is US and Canada list. In 2023, Eddie was awarded ITSMF executive member. And Eddie, I'm not sure about anybody else, but I don't know what all these acronyms are. I'm sure you'll explain it to them. Executive
Okay.
member of the year, leading organization for the growth and empowerment of Black technology executives, and is a standing board member of the Just Society, the leading organization of Black C-suite executives in pharma and biotech. Eddie holds a BS in theology and pastoral studies from Northeastern Bible College, as well as a master's in divinity with studies in technological entrepreneurship and communication. And I'm out of breath, Eddie.
That's all right.
So I'm
That's
going
all
to
right.
turn the camera and the mic over to you now and welcome Eddie Bright Jr.
Well, thank you. And first of all, I just want to compliment Cher. She gave us some things that just I don't know about you, but when you have someone that gives you something really real, you know how you sit back and you take a breath and you want to make sure that whatever is being shared sinks in. Cher gave us a lot of things. And when she said, what's that one word that you want a prospect, a potential client partner, whatever it is, what's that one word you want them to have? And that word is relief. Like, that's like, you can't put a price tag on that one, Cher. So thank you for so much. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I always try to tell, especially young people, that you've got 7 seconds to create a lasting impression. We call it the first impression, but you have 7 seconds. I'm going to spitball a little bit. And I'm going to be a little, and I hope you don't think I'm all over the place, but I'm going to spitball because there are certain things that I want to be able to sort of lift from what Cher said. And I think that it's intimate and it's important. Dora, I think your mic is on. I think it's important that we don't miss it. So I think I can lift some of those things and give it to us business owners, because we're all out here fighting the same fight and we all want the same thing, and we want potential clients and clients to work with us, and we feel like we've got to get around DEI and all these other acronyms, and the government's coming, and people feel like they're not getting their fair share, and you've got some communities that feel disenfranchised now, and they believe that DEI might be the problem. So I'm gonna try to make it real plain, as a good friend of mine who passed some years ago used to say. I'm gonna try to put it where the goats can get it. First of all, businesses are in business to make money. Period. Full stop. So we can be the greatest diverse organization. We can use all the right words, inclusion and belonging and accessibility and compassionate leadership and all the things that we want to. But at the end of the day, if your message is not clear that whoever you're speaking to, you can't help them make money, you don't stand a chance. It's just that simple. And I'm in the staffing business. So you know what happens when you tell somebody you're in the staffing business, their eyes glaze over and they're like, that's wonderful. And they're expecting to hear a pitch about, I can get you more people, I can get them for less, I can do this and I can do that. Well, here's the good news about Aptas Global Workforce. I started back as global CEO. I built Aptas Global CEO starting May 23rd, 2023. And there are people on the call today that can verify what I'm about to say. We have added over 50 logos, and I'm not talking small logos. I'm talking about some of the most iconic brands on the planet, and we've done none of it through an RFP. Not one. We haven't responded to one RFP. So how were we able to do that? We were able to do that, first of all, on the premise of understanding, even in this climate, that great opportunities come out of chaos. And how do we do that? The first thing is, I do nothing. I like to say I'm too old for a fair fight. And I know some of the older guys like me that are on this call today. I go into nothing without understanding clearly who it is I'm talking to, what they do, and why they do it. In the staffing business, most of the opportunities you're going to get are related around projects or hiring initiatives, or it could be reskilling and upskilling, and they decided that the bottom 10% had to go. It could be a new project. It could be an enhancement to an IT system. It could be building out a customer service center. It could be a lot of things that they want to give you the opportunity. What we've done at Aptas Global, and I challenge all of us today to really grasp onto this. We make sure that we understand the answer to 4 questions with any business that we approach. Number 1, what is it that you do? Now, that'll be pretty simple. No matter who you're talking to, you know what the business does. We also ask, why do you do it? Now that might sound a little weird. Well, why are you going to ask a business or a CIO or a chief procurement officer or a chief HR officer or a chief administrative officer, why do you do what you do? But it is a thought-provoking question. And if you're sitting with someone that really has a desk or a purview, or more importantly, the ability to spend money, they know why they do what they do. The third question is, what do you hope to achieve by what you're doing? Because most of us are sitting in front of businesses, opportunities, because there was something that they may be trying to achieve, and they hoped that you were the one that was going to answer that question. Or as Chair so well said, you were the one that were going to give them that sense of relief. So that's the third question. What do you hope to achieve by what you're doing? Why am I sitting in front of you? What brought us together? And here's the fourth one. Here's something that will always open a door, and whoever you're talking to will cause them to say, these guys are a little bit different. When you ask someone, do you know how your competition does it? Now, what does that do? That makes you become, we used the word, Cher used it earlier, that makes you become that trusted advisor. Okay, this guy can tell me if I'm here at Toyota, they can tell me how GMC is doing it. If I'm sitting here at Tropicana Orange Juice, they can tell me how Minute Maid is doing. That might sound like something really small, but it's a huge question, especially if you've done your homework and you have any type of inroads to how the competition is doing it. Even if it doesn't get you the contract today or the MSA today, or you don't get to, hey, yeah, we're definitely going to do it. It definitely leaves an impression of who you are, what you are, and what your world looks like. Those things are critically important because many times we want to go in and say, well, we can do it faster, we can do it better, or we can do it cheaper. None of those three words or even that spirit is necessarily going to get you business. Let me throw some things out too about who we are. We're all diverse business owners. Every last one of us that's probably on this call today, or we're diverse salespeople or marketing people, or we're working within diverse or inclusive type organizations. Let me throw some metrics at you, and these are proven statistics. Now, how you deliver them to your potential clients or the people you're working with right now is on you. But let me give you some numbers that are pretty important. First of all, the top quartile of ethnic and cultural diversity on executive teams, the executive level, the people that you may be pitching to, the people that you've gotten the opportunity to sit in front of. At that level, 36 to 39% of all of you that are diverse, or you talking to companies at that level, those that have real diversity are 36 to 39% more profitable. There's higher profitability. Now, I'm giving you these numbers because we have to be able to sit on these numbers. It's not enough that, hey, I'm diverse and I'm minority certified and, I'm veteran certified and I'm LGBTQ certified. No one's buying that right now. That's not going to ring the bell for you. What will ring the bell is how you can help potential clients make money. That's it. And no one's going to walk away from that, especially if you have numbers that support that. Companies with diverse teams see up to 41% higher revenue. 41% higher revenue. And those companies that are in innovation see 19% higher innovation. Who are the numbers? The numbers are everyone from McKinsey and Company to Purple Doyle, the agency that actually does these numbers. Cash flow. Diverse teams generate diverse teams. So if you've got a team over here and a team over there, the diverse team generates 2.3 times higher cash flow per employee. Per employee. Very, I don't think it gets any simpler than that. And market growth. For every 10% increase in gender equality, diverse equality, companies see a 1 to 2% increase in revenue. Those are just numbers, but they're important numbers for who we are, how we present ourselves, and what it is that we're trying to get across. There's certain things that I want to be able to say this the right way. There's certain things that we can't walk away from. Let me share some of the things that have worked for us at Aptas Global. First of all, we don't just talk about staffing. Now, I've got a saying, and it's traveled the world, and anyone that's been in staffing for over 20 years has heard this saying, and I started it 27 years ago for staffing. And I always say I want to put cheeks in seats. Corny saying, but it's gotten around the world and gotten back to me 10 times over. At the end of the day, what's really important for you to understand that you've got to be more than what you say you are. Now, Cher said it real well about how do people feel about you? How do you make them feel? So let me give you some things that have worked for us. We do staffing, but within staffing, I have a team that is conscious of providing Generation Z. Now, why is that important? First of all, and we all should know this, especially as we're pitching to companies. For the first time in the history of corporate America, there are 5 different generations in the workplace. The generation that will be 61% of American workforce by September 2027 is Generation Z. Generation Z has had technology their entire lives. As a matter of fact, we don't even call them teenagers, we call them screenagers. Because if you can't get them here, you can't get them. They don't come in and say, hey, well, I'm going to sit and I'm just going to carry coffee for the boss for the first 6 months. And I'm going to come in at 7:30 and I'm going to leave at 7 o'clock at night. And I'm going to learn this business and I'm going to grow and I'm going to spend the 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 years to move into. They don't think like that. As a matter of fact, they believe that they can be a CEO at 35,000 feet flying on an airplane. So how do you get them? How do you keep them? How do you grow them? How do you stimulate them? That's something that we've done at AppTest Global, which has opened up another revenue stream because companies are saying, yeah, that's right. We do have 5 different generations in the workplace, and Generation Z is going to be 61% of my workplace. How am I going to be able to get them? As a matter of fact, we've hired some Generation Zers and they're leaving in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. We're not able to keep them. So we're doing more. We're spreading our purview other than me just saying, I can get you quality talent quickly. The second thing is that we have a practice that delivers veterans. Craig Wilson, who's part of our team, he's always looking for veterans that are discharging. And when we place a veteran that goes directly from military service to civilian life, we provide executive coaching for the first 9 months on our dime, on my dime. Now, if you're an employer, how does that sound to you? Oh, I like that. And no one's, watch this, as much as they may be talking down the word diversity, no one is turning their backs on veterans. Third thing we do, we have a practice that works with those in the neurodivergent and the disabled community. I think we should all know that's an $8 trillion market. There are all types of tax benefits and write-offs when companies hire those with disability. So us being able to say we can get you those folks. Now watch this. My leader can also provide coaching to the HR department. How do you hire those with disabilities? Watch this. How do you get people within your workforce and your ecosystem to disclose if they have a disability? For everyone that doesn't know this, 1 in 4 Americans have a disability, whether seen or unseen. Fourth thing, I have a leader, Dr. Rahim Beach. He teaches courageous leadership and storytelling. I wonder if anyone knows that storytelling is huge right now in the workplace, especially for executives. How do we tell the story? That's a lot of what Cher was saying. How do you tell the story for your virtual image, your LinkedIn profile, your social media profile? One thing she said that really resonated with me was how when someone sees your LinkedIn profile, do they know what you do? Do they have a feel for what you do? And then the fifth thing, and this is something that I've never even shared with my present team, but it's something I've always had a sense of, that I realized in listening to Cher, it was a gift that was given to me by the president of IZOD, Philip Van Heusen, Alan Sirkin, some years ago. He helped me start an AAU basketball program, which was more than just a program. It was a chance to affect Black athletes in the inner city, but it became a ministry. The Generation Z practice that I just shared with you became a little bit of a ministry or a social give back. The divergent, neurodivergent, and the disabled, that was a social agenda. What am I getting at? When people look at your company, if you want to show that you're more than just what's on the screen, you should have a social agenda. How many of us have really ever thought about that? I've done it without realizing I've been doing it, but it paints a bigger picture of credibility that you are involved in communities and that you're giving back in ways. So as Cher said, they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. They're going to look at your website. And if they see a day of giving, I can name, we all know the different types of things that we can do that show that, wow, that company has a community aspect to them too. So when you do get the business, when the chief procurement officer or the chief HR officer or the CEO or someone does give you that opportunity, they can also brag about, yeah, we're doing business with XYZ company because, yeah, they're getting us great people or they're giving us great services or they're great in software development or they're doing this or they're doing that. Oh, and by the way, that's one of the other things they do that we really like about them. Think about that. I think I'm spitballing a little bit, but there are some things that, as I said, that have helped us grow. We have new clients lined up like a runway right now, and that's not bragging. It's just that we have become now very streamlined: life sciences, media, banking, municipalities. We've become very streamlined, and we know who our story. We know what our story is at Aptas Global, and we know why we do it. And we're not afraid to operate in what I like to call our zone of genius, our ZOG. As a matter of fact, let me give more credit to Cher Jones. She shared that term, a ZOG, a zone of genius, with me probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I took that because you know what? I'm going to give credit to everyone that's on this call today. Each one of you have a ZOG. You have a zone of genius. We don't celebrate businesses and business owners and entrepreneurs like we should. Because for us to do what we do and to compete in the circumstances we are and to get in the door and then be able to stick and do business, you've got to have not just tenacity and passion, but you've got to know your clients. You've got to know what you offer. You've got to know what will help you stick, because we've all heard in IT, and I'm sure Cliff knows this, IBM never gets thrown out, but our company can get thrown out. So we have to compete for what we do every day. But when we do it, we bring a higher level of genius to every client that we serve. Those are some of the things that I have today. I know we're up against the time, but I wanted to share. I'm willing to help or share any way I can. I believe in the council, so you should know that I have been able to grow a business. One of the things that Terry Clark gave me maybe 12 years ago, Terry said, listen, Eddie, you're trying to sell your services to the wrong people. You should always be in front of the chief procurement officer. And I thought about that, and I've always made it my purpose to either deal with the CEO or get to the chief procurement officer. Why? Because, and I have a saying that says, he who knows how will always have a job. He who knows why will always be his boss. Well, the chief procurement officer knows why they spend money. He knows what their minority spend is. He knows what they want to spend with diverse companies. Oh, and should I also tell them that I'm a veteran certified supplier, and every time you hire a veteran, you get a 50% tax write-off by the WOTC rule? Just little things that have meant a lot to us. And I hope that I've been able to share a couple of things that are significant and resonate with you as well. That's what I have, Dora.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that anyone that wasn't able to make this webinar are really out of luck. Hopefully you'll be able to do it again for us and share. I welcome you back as well. The information that you two shared was so very valuable. And I don't even own a business, and I learned a lot from the both of you. So thank you so very much. And now we'll turn it over to see if we have any questions from the audience. Any questions here for Cher or either for Eddie?
That was such a valuable talk, Eddie.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Completely makes us think about, or one, own our value, and making sure that we're leading with the value that we bring through our diversity, and recognizing it and owning it. And then just the tips around making your work understood with the different ways that your work is applied. Like Eddie, you just dropped so many things in the 4 questions. I was just trying to take notes for everybody watching, because you just gave us so much. So I appreciate that. And I see a question, Cher. I'm glad you mentioned visibility and attending events. Over the last 3 years, there has been a noticeable shift. I've experienced that supplier diversity leaders, F1000s from Fortune 1000s, are increasingly helpful and engaging at the conference booth, but not completely non-responsive once the event ends. Is this a systemic decline in accountability, or has the role just shifted from business development to public relations? That is a really good question. So this is where it could be depending on the organization itself, like what their policy is, and if they're allowed to engage in the way that they have at the events. But the one thing that I can say, and I'm sure Eddie, you can really dive into this, is that when you are visible, what you then, and that interaction is made, that is remembered when they look your when they look up your package, when they look up your application, when they're checking you out. And then furthermore, they get to experience the extended remix of your brand because you're actually giving them more language. Because oftentimes in those moments, we only have the one thing that we can talk about and keep it moving on to the next. We're lucky if we get a 5-minute conversation, if not 10. And so this way, what you have inside the application that only not only shows your talent but also your team's talent, and then being able to get the extended remix online, that changes everything, plus that in-person experience. What do you think, Eddie?
There's a book that was written by a guy named Bill Bruner, and I want to give a couple of things to business owners, but I also want to recognize someone, share. Avis Yates is on the line, and in my opinion, she walks on water. She is, and I'm sounding her out. I'm calling her out because I've always wanted to be around people that I thought and that I know are very successful. Like Avis was like, just everything about her brilliance, her business, her beauty. I'm sure you're the same way. I am the result of the Tom Manganos, the Ron Roberts, and these are all CIOs, chief procurement officers. I emulated, and even stole some things until I came into my own in this business. I had the passion, but you got to be able to see people that are successful and ask them for help. Say, hey, how did you do that? How did you, because we're all in this, we really are in this together. But that's the one thing I want to call her out and call out Avis, because I think that's very important. I think that we have to always be doing this too. And this is going to sound weird because we're business owners and we get caught up. Don't stop investing in yourself. And never, as Bill Bruner said in his book, if you've got someone that you know is real and they can deliver in your business, don't be cheap. Go get them. Go get them. Go get them. Okay? Put them in. There's a big difference. I use the Yankees and the Mets as an analogy. The Yankees go pay Aaron Judge $60 million a year. But guess what? Aaron Judge is going to hit 70 home runs and he's going to drive in 150 runs. The Mets go in and sometimes they get guys in there like, well, if this guy comes back from his both of his Achilles tears and his ACH injury, he's going to do this. We're trying to grow a business, so we want to be predictable with the results too. But as a business owner, don't ever stop investing in yourself because you're your greatest commodity. I always like to say, stay in your own lane because there's no traffic there. But when you can go as fast as you want to go being you and driving the passion and the brilliance and everything you want into your business. All of us have so much to give as diverse owners and diverse businesses.
Absolutely. I see there's a question in the comments from Ibrahima, and the question is, what are 3 creative ways you both use to stay top of mind with the chief procurement officer or the CEO? So what's a way that you've used, Eddie, to stay in front?
I was talking to someone earlier today before we got on the call, and they said, well, a friend of ours, something, she said, well, he doesn't want to be a pain in the butt.
Mhm.
Okay, we were just talking about this before we got on the call today. There's always a way to nudge, move something to the top of mind. Stay in contact with what you do. You don't have to be a nudge. As a matter of fact, don't leave meetings without next steps. Too many of us, I had a great sales call. I had a great sales call. That's nothing. That's nothing if there weren't next steps in that call.
Yes.
And there's a reason why 20%, especially salespeople, do 80% of the business because they lead. First of all, their preparation is impeccable. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. They know everything, who they're talking to, why they're talking to them. They may know things about that person that they forgot about. I'll give you a perfect example. One of my young people on my Gen Z practice, I have something called Gen Z recruits. And I have three young people. We started with 10. We kept 3 that we call career advocates that only recruit Generation Z. So we did a call with, oh my God, his last name is Lowry. He's the chief procurement officer. He just became the CEO of Henry Schein Company. And I had Stevan on the call. And Stevan always, we taught him, prepare before you talk to someone. So during the call, now this is a 19-year-old young African-American kid from Westside High School in Newark, New Jersey, Jeff Lowry. He says, "Hey, Jeff, I also see where you did this charity through your fraternity, Alpha Mega Alpha, where you guys were able to read all that money. I really respect that, sir." Now, how do you think Jeff Lowry felt about that? A 19-year-old able to look at his fraternity that he's been in. Now, I'm answering your question. Do you think that CPO kept us top of line?
Yeah.
Do you think we got that logo?
You better believe it. And then what
Okay.
you're really getting at, Eddie, is that idea of personalization, especially right now when true personalization is so personalization in general with, the tools that we have, it seems like things are personal, they've got our names, they've got, stuff about our business. But when you get into the weeds, when it looks like you've paid attention, that's where you're seeing that connection being made because that person actually cares. And we are getting into a time when that connection is going to matter. So going back to Ibrahim's question around how do you stay top of mind? Get personal. So that was a great example. And then something else that I would suggest is knowing what they want to see in their own business, knowing the results that they want to see. Where have you done that somewhere else that they can see proof of that? And that could be talking about the 5 best practices in order to achieve that result. That is thought leadership. Or you can show actual proof of being on site, talking about those things, and that becomes that content that becomes proof. So when we think about content as proof rather than content as marketing, it completely changes the game because content creates conversations with you and about you. And that is something that will completely change your strategy because then you can, if you're regular engaging with that person, you can send them a DM and say, "Hey, when we did this or when I was putting this together, I thought of you because I know that this is what you're interested in. Let me know what you think."
Cher, you said something you gave. Oh boy, you said something, it was 4 words. What matters right now?
Yes.
Well, we go in. I'll give you a perfect example. I've got a couple of salespeople that I asked to join the call because I wanted them to meet you today. But it reminded me of something. How many times have we been around somebody that talks about, I was top 1% of the sales club for the last 10 years. Okay. Now, if I'm a young salesperson growing up in your company and somebody says that to me, does it really matter to me? What does that mean?
No,
Okay.
exactly.
So let's take that and look at companies that we're trying to do business with. We want to do business. Find out what matters to them right now.
Exactly.
There is a company that one of my colleagues, Steve Wistersul, sent me an article. That company is being under attack because they are not hiring minorities and they're building a huge center in upstate New York. I immediately went on LinkedIn, see if and he gave me the company. I went on LinkedIn to see if I knew the head of talent acquisition. Who did I know there in executive leadership? Found out that I did know someone and knew her from when she worked at one of the second largest grocer in the country years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I also know that she's got a need they're going through it. It's all in the press. They aren't hiring and they aren't doing this. They aren't hiring veterans. They aren't hiring minorities. We're in conversation now. I didn't let her know that's why I was reaching out to her. I was just like, "Hey, such and such, we haven't talked in years. How are you? By the way, what do you know that we're doing here at Aptest Global? Did you know about our Gen Z? Did you know that we're bringing veterans?" Conversation initiated.
Yes.
Conversation initiated.
So you've got those 3 examples. You've got the personalization, you've got proof that is your content, and then initiating conversations just to start, but you have in your back pocket the why, but you're going to lead them down that path. So that was really smart. Let's look at Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No,
I
go,
just
please.
wanted to, because we could riff on that one question, Eddie,
Okay.
but that's not the only question waiting for you, right? So suggestions on getting from 10 million to the first 100 million. Did you have a few key customers? So I'm not qualified to answer this question yet because I'm not there yet. But where you developed a
Okay.
quality reputation, or did you stay razor focused in a few areas to become the best before affording expanding services areas and geographies? So great question. And
Yeah,
that was
and
from
I'll
John.
I'll share something that I am privy to share. I organically built a $49 million book of business organically for the Solomon Page Group years ago. Years ago, it's documented. Everyone knows it. Um, a lot of things had to come together. A
Mhm.
lot, a lot. I was very fortunate to have a CIO at a company that got bought by Motorola, became Motorola Solutions, is now part of Zebra. I don't want to give too much away or share anything that I shouldn't share. That took a liking to the way I served the client and the way we came at it full bore. And out of his CIO group, and introduced me, if they were doing an Oracle implementation, hey, you got to meet my guy Eddie.
Mm,
And he was able to get me Oracle resources, and I didn't have to get them all from Oracle. And so the next thing you know, at that client, I've got 32 people. And then
right.
some things were just luck, you know. And then 9/11 happened, and I had three clients who had to rebuild everything, their data centers, everything. They were in the World Trade Center, and employees, a lot of different things came together at the same time. The answer to your question is yes, you have to be focused. I'm going to share this too. You got to have a passion for your business.
Mhm.
You got to love what you got to love what you do. Even when it's painful, even when it's painful. Like
Yes.
I'm going to share this. I wake up sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking it's all going to go away. I'm like, oh Lord, Jesus, Jesus. My wife be like, honey, let Jesus get some rest. Give Jesus a break tonight. But you've got to have a passion. You've got to bring in great people who are passionate.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get stuck to how do we grow a business? We want to have the most brilliant Harvard, this, that, and the other. Give me people that want it. Give me
Mm,
people that are passionate.
right.
Give me people that are able to learn,
Yes.
where you can see they really, really want it. They really,
Mhm.
listen, I still can't bit and bite a bit. You put me in front of a computer to bit and bite, but I can talk to you about business. I can talk to you about how that technology will support your business. I can talk to you about the right types of people in that are doing it. I can talk to you about the coming technologies that are there. I can always talk to you about the ROI. Everything I talk about to a client has ROI associated with it.
Mhm.
And let me throw this out because I don't want us to leave this call today without remembering one thing. You still get what you pay for.
That part.
You still get what
That
you pay
part.
for. Okay.
Yes.
And I think everyone on the call can see today, if you're going to engage a Share Jones, you're going to get what you pay for. You're going to get what you pay for. We, unfortunately, and just the staffing business has become very commoditized, Share, very commoditized. People are sort of getting away from that though. They're beginning to realize that you still get what you pay for. And with AI, even
Yes.
more so than ever before, people are willing to pay for the right things. When I talk about investing in yourself, I don't care what business you represent on this call today. How much are you really investing in understanding what's coming? Don't be scared,
Yes.
because if you're scared, you'll get wiped out. How much are you investing in your industry, innovation, what's next, who's doing what your competition is doing, how they got there? Like Cher said, what rooms are you in? Where are you introducing yourself? What does your 30-second really sound like?
Mhm.
What does it sound like? Okay. And then I like that social agenda thing. When people go to your website, they go to your LinkedIn, show them some of the stuff you're doing that has nothing to do
Right.
with work, but it shows your heart.
And it does
Believe
have
me.
something to do with work because you know what? I know the type of people that I'm going to work with, work for,
Amen.
or
Amen.
collaborate with. So it
Amen.
does. It
Amen.
does in just a
Amen.
different light. And I see that Ibrahima has or has their hand up. So I would love to share something. So I'm assuming you're going to come off mic and share. Or maybe you just pressed it by accident. That's okay. Uh, Perfect. And Marshall said, thank you for your answer, by the way. That was very valuable.
Ibrahim has a question in the chat. Maybe that was it. Share. What are the two
Okay. Oh, I
events?
see there. So let me I skipped past Cheyenne's question. And so how to get the chief of procurement with current corporate clients. I have always been booked by VPs of the department, but they keep me in their own department instead of introducing me to other departments that may need my services as well. So what have you noticed, or what has worked really well for you, Eddie? And then I'll share some branding
A
tips.
couple of things. There are ProcureCon has actual seminars or what do you call them, symposiums where they only invite procurement officers.
The
People don't
events
think
that I
about that.
talked about.
I want
Yeah.
the CIO. If you're in IT, I want the CIO. If you're in legal, I want to go where there's the general counsel. We get very myopic that way. The procurement officer controls the spend. They control. And watch this, especially for some of the software development type companies that are on here that know that you can do great jobs for less. What's one of the biggest spends in any company? IT.
Yeah.
If you can show a procurement officer that you can deliver the solution, that they're not taking a big risk on you, because that's a big word. Relief is one word, risk is another R word, word. Okay. You cannot represent risk because
Yes.
they won't place a bet on you. But if you can show you can do something that they've been giving to SAP or whatever, and you can do it for half the cost, just as well or better, with more customization to their need, and you're a long-term investment, the chief procurement officer will say to the CIO or someone else, hey, I want you to have a conversation with these guys.
Right.
Now,
But
what happens when
yeah.
you're referred down from a chief procurement officer to a VP? You said VP of department. When you're referred down to the VP and the chief procurement officer saying, I like these guys. I've done my homework on them. See if they can help us. That's how the
So
conversations happen. Yeah.
Exactly. So being where you can create the conversation, so ProcureCon, for example, and then internally, so they're already nestled within. Would you suggest that perhaps even asking for the connection or build it, like you land and
Absolutely.
expand? So you have sometimes I
Absolutely.
feel just to your conversation earlier where, you have to ask to get things moving. You have to ask, right? With that example that you shared for making the connection. Sometimes we have to be out there and ask, but then position it in a way that that person then has your language to advocate for you. They
Yes.
see what's online. So going back to that performance-driven personal brand, a brand that is actually driving your performance so that you can show up the right way. When you have that, it makes the ask so much easier because the evidence is right there.
Well, listen, we want people to hear us. The only thing that resonates with anyone is value. That's it.
Exactly.
What is your value
What is your
propositions?
value?
I have a one new young lady who's a salesperson for us, account executive, and I keep saying that word. Hey, Sid, value. What's your value? And you talked about all those things, how you
Yeah.
make people feel, are you trustworthy? Do you give that sense of relief? Do you have knowledge about what they do? Are you investing in who they are as a client, as a current client? Are you keeping them ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
You know what happens? We build relationships and we go in and we just talk about what's happening now. How about going into your clients and telling them what's coming? And hey, did you know that? And if you need any help with that, I can cover that for you with no cost. What's the give back? Sometimes I'll do things for a client. There is no cost. You just do it. Just do it. It comes back to me 100-fold. Never not come back. Never not come
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
Exactly. And then so Ibrahima has, what are two events you have always on your calendar that you recommend small businesses should go to meet procurement officers? I guess one was ProcureCon. What's another one?
ProcureCon. That seems to be the
That's a
biggest
big
one
one.
for me. I also am very adamant about asking to meet a chief procurement officer.
Yeah.
I'll even send my value propositions of Aptest Global. Hey, John, this is Ed Bright on LinkedIn. I know you get a million of these, so that's not really why I'm here. But I think there may be a conversation to be had. I think we have some. Well, I think we have some value that would be important to some of the initiatives you have in bringing in the right talent. Looking at your talent. I know you've got. I've found out there's a huge grocer. Found out that 53% of their workforce was over the age of 53.
Mm.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
No, you know you're looking to bring in young talent. And that information is that you mentioned this earlier. You'd be amazed how much information is out there.
It's out there.
You
It is
you'd
out
be
there.
amazed what you can find out about a prospective client. You'd be amazed and how you can be very targeted to the people you want to talk to.
Yes.
Let's be honest, there's no email that's a secret anymore. There are
No.
there's no people like I can't get their email. Oh yes, you can. I have someone in my organization. Hey, can you get me the email for such and such at this company? And I'll have it within 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
There's
And that's the
no
thing. And recognizing as well, sorry to interrupt you, Eddie, recognizing as well that when your online presence, especially on places like LinkedIn, looks complete, it's not sparse. It has information that I feel like I could get to know you really quickly just by clicking around and seeing a few things. And there's life in the presence. It makes people, it's not well, it's kind of superficial until they actually know you, but it does give that feeling of, okay, I know this person a little bit more than the person that just has their picture up and the title of their role in their resume.
I want to go back to a couple of things that you highlighted that made it easy for me to speak today. Personal brand, your personal brand is your business brand. It is
Yeah.
your business brand. For those of you that have always talked about, well, I want work-life balance. I just want work-life balance. There is no such thing anymore.
No.
There is no such thing. So, let me take that reservation away for those of you that are like, well, I want to be very successful and, I want to come in at 8:45 and leave at 4:45. There is no work-life balance anymore. Not if you want to compete in this
That's
information
the
age
asterisks.
where everything is out there. It's 24/7. You've got to not only move at the speed of business and opportunity, you've got to be the one that's around the corner when they turn the corner.
100%.
You got to be
But
the one. Hey, I'm here.
hey, I got this.
I'm
Yeah.
here. Let me take that work off your desk. Let me take that work. I'm not afraid to tell any client. They already know this. I'm transactional, but I don't come off as transactional. But I'm
Mhm.
I'm obviously I'm transactional. But I have tried to train salespeople that work with me, and for my clients, they know I'm their guy. I tell them I'm your guy. I want to be your guy. That might sound real old school, but I challenge everyone on here today with your clients, you let them know that you want to be their guy.
And that
For
brings
those,
relief.
yeah, that's right. I want
That
to be
brings
your guy.
relief.
I got that for you. I
Yeah.
want and make sure you deliver. And for those
That.
of us that are in big companies with big ecosystems and big opportunity, every time you deliver, flap your wings. Don't be afraid to let people know you did it. Your little company did it. Your little company, you did it. Okay?
Yes.
Not in the like, look at me now, but like, hey, what else is out there for you? What else can I take care of for you?
Right.
If you need anything, how many times have you been able to say that with a client that you're doing good business with? Just tell them personally if you need anything. They may say, "Hey, I want to go to dinner next week." Okay, well, you got to decide that one. But at the end of the day, you want to build the type of thing where they know Cher's got that. Ibrahima's got that. Dr. Smith's got that. Derek's got that. You want your client to know, I got that. I got that for you.
And then have you ever used your certificates to open doors for you and grow the business?
Without saying it.
Yeah.
You're looking at, I'm home today, obviously with 22 inches of snow and still snowing. I'm home today. If you see my backdrop and this is another thing, and Cher Jones taught me this. My backdrop is very important.
Yes.
If you see my backdrop in my office, and those of you that have been on know, I've got an American flag in the triangle, which was given to my aunt, um, my Aunt Mary, who was married to my Uncle Bill. My Uncle Bill was part of the personal attaché to
Mhm.
John F. Kennedy. I have that flag. Next to that, I have my United States Marine Corps symbol. Now, why do I have that? Because people will say, hey, what's that behind you?
Yeah,
Gives me a chance to tell my story.
exactly.
I don't have to say I'm veteran certified at that point. I don't have to say that. It's right there over my left shoulder, against the window in my office, purposely,
Of course,
intentionally,
intentionally. They're Easter
intentionally,
eggs. They're Easter eggs
intentionally.
about who you are.
So,
And they
have I
matter.
used my certifications? Of course. Do businesses still want to do business with minority certified businesses? Yes, they do.
Because it means money.
Yes, they do. For those of us that might be a little discouraged today, they're there. You don't have to say it. They already answered that question when they turn on the screen. That's already answered.
Yeah.
Now, can you help them do better, faster, and less expensive?
And then let's see. Angela says, I have participated within other regions. Does this chapter host meet the new virtual conferences that introduce you to the decision makers?
Yes, yes, they do. Yes, yes, they do. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to remember, this is the New York, New Jersey chapter.
Yeah.
So, and I believe there's like 1,500 businesses, and you've got tons of the big boys that are looking for people like us that
Yeah.
will go to the council and say, hey, who's a good supplier in the staffing space? Who's a good supplier in the software integration? Who's a good supplier with supplies in this area? Who's a good supplier that does this? Who's a good supplier for coaching? Absolutely. I'm in the midst right now of being onboarded to one of the television networks who was very interested in what we do with veterans. And the woman who introduced me knew that her chief diversity officer was big in that space. And she said,
Mm.
Eddie, I know that you're veteran certified. Can you come on and tell us what you do with veterans? And they have me on a panel later this week, and I'm certain as well that they will want to onboard us as a supplier.
And then the other thing that I'm thinking about, just as far as that question is concerned, is also making building relationships with potential partners that are also certified as
Amen.
well, so that you can package your gifts, package your services and what you're bringing to the table, so that you can expand and deliver incredible value where you couldn't otherwise if you didn't partner.
I think we're at the bottom of the hour. I think we're only supposed to
We
go to about
are.
12:30. Um, and I saw something about invites. I would encourage you. Um, I believe that's Angela, that Dora Reddick
Yes.
or Terrence Clark would be the right people to talk um, to get you connected into some of the virtual because they have tons of them. This is a very active conference, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I haven't been able to learn how to put the work in and be very strategic about creating new opportunities because of the council. Dora?
So, yeah, I'll contact you, Angela, to let you know what you need to do. But I want to just say a couple of things before we end the call. Clifton, if you don't mind. First, I want to thank again Cher for joining us today, and
Thank you for
Eddie,
having me.
and you two make a perfect team. You complement each other very well. And this is one of the presentations that gives you goosebumps. I don't know about everybody else, but it's leaving me with goosebumps. I didn't even want to take a bathroom break. I was scared I was going to miss something. Honest to God, this was one of the greatest presentation workshops, webinars, whatever you want to call it, that we've ever had. And again, I want to say, please come back. Eddie, you said something that made me think about how did you do that? That is a topic for a webinar that I'd like to employ a couple of our suppliers to give some of our other suppliers tips and tricks on how you actually did it. And I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But for any other questions concerning your certification, you can reach out to me directly. This is an Eddie and Share show, and we're not going to interfere with the certification questions right now, but please reach out to me directly. And again, thank you so much for this. It was
Love you bunch,
just
Steve.
perfect. Perfect.
All right.
And I want to thank Clifton Clark for he's our CIO IT. Couldn't have been done without him. So thank you, Clifton. And we will see you soon.
All right.
Amazing.
Okay,
Thank
Clifton,
you.
we can
Thank
end it.
you. Have a good
All
one.
right.
Stay safe.